karakia tātou. Whakatakata hou ki te uru, whakatakata hou ki te tonga, ki mā kina kina ki uta, ki mā taratara ki tai. E eke ake ana ti atakura, hei tio, hei huka, hei hauhu, ti hei moriora. Welcome everyone to our May Lunch and Learn Values Aligned Fundraising 101 with Sarah Barra from the Fundraising Agency. Happy May! Ko Zenaida tōku ingoa. My name is Zenaida and I work at an advocacy agency called For Purpose. I'm based in the really sunny Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington today. And if this is your first Lunch and Learn, big special welcome. We hold these free online sessions every month, and they're a space to hopefully share knowledge and build connection with people who are working in social change or are interested in social change and advocacy. And over the next few months, we're inviting some of our really knowledgeable friends like Sarah to share the invaluable knowledge around social impact. So if you're interested, check out our website for future sessions. I'm going to drop a link to where you might find them in the chat. We're recording the session and I'm going to post them, the recording online later so that more people can have access to this information. And we really love seeing your faces, but if you are more comfortable, feel free to turn your cameras off. We just want you to feel kind of comfortable and safe and contribute in whatever way that feels good for you. So do what you like. Please eat your lunch if you had it. This month, I brought mine. So yeah, do that. We've been hearing from a lot of purpose-led organizations recently across the board. They're really feeling the effects of the funding cuts and donor budgets tightening, and we're seeing a lot of uncertainty and a lot of stress and a lot of people doing even more with less. And that's why I'm really excited to have Sarah with us here today, who knows this space inside and out, and who can perhaps help us think a bit differently about our fundraising approach. Sarah is the managing director of the Fundraising Agency, and she's going to talk to us about how we can build a values-driven fundraising approach, one that ties into a broader strategy and connects with our supporters in a real way. Her team is about creating tailored fundraising solutions, strategies, and campaigns, and building knowledge and expertise within organizations to achieve long-term fundraising success. And I really love this approach because it is built on meaningful relationships with supporters and donors and stakeholders. And so thank you so much, Sarah, for being here and driving this session. I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes, thank you. Beautiful introduction. Thank you, Z. We really appreciate you guys and your approach, actually, how you are, how you turn up, and what you're here to do. So there will be many of you that have large tasks ahead of you in terms of the work, the impact that you're wanting to see achieved. And I guess I really wanted to make sure you felt confident that fundraising can really help unlock that for all of you. And I want to today talk through the slides a little bit about how we can share make it a bit easier, a bit lighter, and a little less frustrating because it is all possible. So that's really what we want to cover. And my background is fundraising. So I worked inside a not-for-profit for 5 years and was able to assist them to double their operational revenue over about a 4-year period sustainably through the development of a good strategy alignment and also engagement with the board, etc., which is really important as well. We are all in it together. And I also have a more commercial background prior to that, working in business development, really. So I love talking to people and solving problems. But the business I have, the fundraising agency, we are almost 13 years old actually this December, which is a big milestone. And our whole purpose is to really empower and unlock and educate. We do it through the work, but our outcome that we're after isn't the work. It's what happens within your organisation after we have worked with you. So that's really important to us. I've got a great team, and very, very proud of what we have done and what we will continue to do. So, have we got some slides? That I can't see them, sorry. Oh, there's a cat just flying past.
I'm going to pull them up now.
Thank you. We've got some questions from some of you as well, and I've got a part of today's session where we will answer those. So please don't feel worried about that. A couple of the questions aren't, we won't be able to answer today, but my team will reach out and actually speak to you guys directly. We'll do that next week. So I just wanted to let you know. Have we got slides? Lovely. Cool. So this is more like fundraising 101, 102, to be really honest, not just 101, but all of it is interconnected, and it'll be great for you to get a sense of the parts, as I said, to make it easier for you really. And that's what the focus will be today. So it won't be a surprise that we want to align strategy and really talk about what that is in the context of what does that mean? How do we actually do that? It sounds good, but a bit scary. So we're going to talk about ways of connecting your organization's strategic plan with the fundraising, which is critical, highlighting the essential importance of vision and values for larger donors. So people making longer term, larger gifts want to be involved in your impact. They really do. And it's important that we allow them to do that through that strategic kind of piece. Balancing revenue streams for most not-for-profits, charities, NGOs, the real challenge around where do I spend my time to get the best ROI? Sometimes you inherit a portfolio that is challenging, or you feel like you have to react all the time and you're stuck. So this is all good stuff for you to know, to be able to correct and shift and to be able to get the best out of your time and the resource you have. And identifying readiness to ask. It's really interesting in fundraising in New Zealand, probably over the last 20 years, we have seen a lot of asking, like a lot of asking. And I'm pretty sure I know why that is, but that isn't how fundraising works, actually. The essence of the practice and the profession is that it's mostly planning and preparation, which includes listening and research and really understanding and developing great propositions that are aligned and fit before any asking occurs. And so I just want to make sure you feel confident about that as well, especially with your boards and things, to push back if needed and how you might do that. Cool. So I love this so much. We have a sign in the office, a quote of Hank Rosso's. So this beautiful man was one of the instigators and founders of what people call modern fundraising. It isn't actually modern, but what it is it's a way of understanding that it's all about the relationship with the individual we are engaging with. So this is essentially what is called philanthropic fundraising. And what that means is fundraising is second to philanthropy, right? These are some of the kind of core principles here. We take a donor-centered approach, and I want to just kind of acknowledge that doesn't mean you do what the donor says. It definitely doesn't mean that. But I do want to make sure that that's kind of clear to you guys around your ability to be confident and strong. You don't want to necessarily receive money from a large donor that wants to be on your board. That's not that healthy or necessarily the right long-term plan for the organisation. So donor-centred means we do what's right. We do what's ethical, we do what's right. We take money that we know we can use and spend and account for well in areas that we said we were going to use it. Not just taking money and then building things, you know what I mean? Fundraising is not just something you do, it's not a task. It's something that should be embedded throughout the organisation and be kind of built into that whole management piece or SLT piece, really, in terms of understanding the power and the importance of it. Ethics and integrity are everything. And you can really see, once you've been doing this for a while, you can really see the difference in the approach and the practice. And I just want to kind of nod to that with old Hank, how powerful that was. People do give to people, but that doesn't mean that if you moved from one charity to another, would take all the donors with you. That's not kind of how that works. People give to you, but you are a conduit, right? So they are giving to the organisation through you. And fundraising is not begging. Never, ever, ever are we begging. We are allowing space and allowing people the privilege of actually giving to causes and areas of work that they deeply care about and are aligned to. Cool, next one. So we really want to make sure we focus on the alignment of that strategy, so your long-term strategic plan. And when I say long-term, that could look like 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Everyone is different, and that is absolutely fine. But this is kind of how you start to unlock the ease that I talked about earlier. So the alignment of your strategic plan does not start with you, interestingly enough. You are the catalyst for making this occur within your organisation. And so to do that, you will manage up through your CE or GM or whoever's in your organisation, and also down, and out to donors, right? But you have to have a clear vision. It has to be genuine, make sense, meaningful, not too long because people won't be able to listen to it or understand it. So a genuine vision, really clear, and it has to be aspirational as well. Within that, then you get into your mission. So, what it is you're doing, really, the really clear mission, which we are also committed to in this space, in the not-for-profit space, how important mission-led activities are. You will then, within your organisation, have a strategic plan, and mostly that will have been led by your board, most likely, and CE or SLT or whatever your leadership team looks like. So this is where we kind of get into this gnarly bit of how do we connect this strategic plan and this fundraising strategy, right? And the way that we do it is actually simple. So the strategic plan will have pillars or areas of focus, right? And those are the things that need money, really. And this will include your BAU, your day-to-day operational stuff, within doing the work you have in front of you strategically to deliver. So when we look at that, the strategic plan, we want to simplify the language. And when we do that, we can allow the development of the fundraising strategy, or we can find alignment because we use the pillars, the areas you're focusing on, with simple language that donors can actually access, that isn't too complex. We allow that to be the areas, the buckets, the big areas that you need money. So when we communicate outwardly, we talk about, so if you're a health organisation, we would talk about things like support, advocacy. If you were a school, we would talk about scholarships quite often. There might be an endowment. You might have student experience, enhancing student experience, different types of focus areas. And what that means is when you're talking to large donors, they have the opportunity to quite quickly go, oh, I'm into that. That's me. I like that space. That works for me. And that's the work we have, is to slowly hone in from the space to the thing. But it doesn't have to be a thing that they pay for and fund end to end. It's about them investing and supporting you implement your strategic plan through your fundraising, right? And so they will help effectively monetize your strategic plan. And it's over multi-years. This is really larger donors. Smaller donors can do it too. So it's not one or the other, it's everyone that you're going to be working with. And that language that I talked about, the simplified language, is really what those fundraising priorities are. And then we would build messaging from the fundraising priorities, which have all come down through that, right down from the vision. But those messages can't just be general comms messages. So in fundraising, we are really mindful about the emotive and the call to action that we need to build. And that's why we use this language, donor centricity. So it's about it connecting with the donor audience, really, really important. And just, we were going to do a poll, but we aren't, just because of time and the challenges that brings about. But we did just want you to think about, do you have a strategic plan? Some groups don't, that's fine. Everyone's different. If you don't have one, it's not your job to build it, okay? You don't have to do everything. So push that back up the line, but just make sure and check in where that's at. And anything is better than nothing. And then if you don't have a fundraising strategy and you're actively out there fundraising, life is going to feel pretty rough because you don't know where you're going so much. So just that, really important to consider the development of that as well. Next slide. Cool. So I don't want to spend all the time on high value donors. I know, because we love working in this space because of the transformation, that, you know, transformational giving and impact, that all of this stuff applies to smaller donors. It can apply to smaller donors and larger donors. On the right-hand side here, you can see that we've got tangible outcomes. So that's like things, items, or long-term impact. So these audiences here, which we've got individual donors, so that's the individual giving, which includes regular giving, trusts and foundations, corporate partners, major donors, and bequest donors. So some like longer term impact, some want both, and some just need short term impact. So we have to respond appropriately. Vision and values, just the key thing to think about there is, if your vision statement is amazingly short, simple, and straightforward, like the three we've got here, it's very easy for people to understand where you're going. And then that lets them then understand how they can be involved in supporting your work through giving. So really important. Next one, please. The priority language, I just wanted to use an example of a client of ours actually that we worked with. I think someone has a, is there sound on? Sorry. I'll keep going. I'll just ignore that. So priority areas, here's some examples of some we worked on with a client. So they are a children's, the charity is a children's charity. This is the foundation, not the actual charity. So not doing the work, but supporting the good work in perpetuity, long term. Quite normal for a foundation to do this. So their focus is more bequest major gifts and much more long term. So their priority areas, based on their strategic plan and in alignment with the charity, with the centre, land and buildings, which is, there's more text under each of these drop downs. Feel free to have a look. If you shoot onto Chumley's page, you can see this. Equipment and resourcing, learning and education, whānau support fund, and the endowment as well. So cool to see the mix. Let's keep moving. Cool. Diversification of fundraising streams. Everyone will have had this responsibility to understand it and trying to make the mix work. With some of the questions, I just wanted to note that there are groups that are really small that are dealing with just volunteers, right, doing everything. And I know we are always very volunteer supported, which is great. But in terms of the fundraising, you know, the volunteers doing the fundraising and really trying hard to get all this right, very, very tricky. So small organizations and then bigger ones. So diversification looks different depending on your size. However, the kind of tools around how you diversify are no different. So I want to talk to you a bit about that as we look at this next slide as well. So in the lovely world we exist in, the beautiful fundraising space, we have 6 revenue streams that any not-for-profit charity could really access. They are trust and foundations, corporate partnerships, which includes sponsorship, and we'll talk about that shortly, major gifts, bequests, you could call bequests legacies or gift and wills, it really depends on the language you want to use, community fundraising, which a lot of you will be very familiar with, and then individual giving. And individual giving includes regular giving, just to really qualify that as well. So when you've got all of these opportunities and options, how confusing and challenging when each of these is so very different. Each one requires quite a different treatment, quite a different approach, a different knowledge base, different policy potentially. So none of that needs to be scary because you'll be already working with some. The key to good ROI is balancing, and this is the hard bit actually, is juggling what you're currently doing and you know works well with bringing in new and developing revenue streams, because they're not going to, like, if you bring in bequests, you're not going to see any return. There's going to be no return on the investment there for between, say, 5 and 10 years, could be around 7 years. That's kind of the average, but that depends on the audience, obviously, you're engaging with. So that's a longer term revenue stream. Major gifts is more medium long term. Community fundraising is obviously instant, very fast, but it requires a huge amount of effort and the most cost almost of community fundraising, corporate partnerships and individual giving would probably take the bulk of the money to drive, which is really interesting, right? It's not actually the higher value that requires the bigger investment in terms of money or time from us as fundraisers. So it's just really interesting to understand that. So what I'd be doing if I was a small group that was volunteer-led is I wouldn't be trying to do everything. No point. It's going to be hiding to nothing in the end for you, and it won't help you so much. You'll just get more difficult. So you would start by looking at your donor audiences really and who's currently giving. Continue to do what you're doing well, and then through that strategic planning, you will have worked out where you want to go, and you really then need to hopefully you've got a database or some kind of a list. Who's warm and where's that at for you? Trust and foundations for most charities in New Zealand is obviously the biggest generator of fundraising revenue through their grants. But that revenue stream is not something we can confidently, trust is going to be there forever. And we do know that. So we know diversification is important. So you have to do it, but you can't do it alone. And I guess that's another really important point, that fundraising is not your job only. It is very much the job of the whole organisation. And that doesn't mean they're out asking, because remember, asking is the tiny little 5%, but they are maybe making a phone call to thank a donor. That's all they do, thank them. They might be giving you a bit of information that they learned about someone that you're prospecting, and we do use that word here, just to make sure that you have the knowledge you need, sharing that with you. They might come to a meeting, like an ask meeting when you get to that point. And all those kind of opportunities are there, and we have to allow our organizations to be in it with us. We don't have to carry the load ourselves. But yeah, really important that you get that diversification of the portfolio and don't start with everything all at once. If you have to get rid of a revenue stream, and so when I say get rid of, I don't mean entirely, but you might need to pull back. So one of those areas is often in that individual giving space. So sometimes groups that have worked with external parties to build their donor base or acquire donors through one-off or regular gifts, the cost of that is super, super high. If you're a smaller organization, that's not going to be where you should be necessarily spending your money. And so it's really just trying to understand the cost, the real cost, what the time is from you, and then what the return is, looking at all of it, analysing it against your strategic plan, the organisation's strategic plan. But hopefully you've got the fundraising strategy built or being built, where you can start to incorporate this thinking, your thinking, into where should we go and why? Where should we stop going and why? And that will help you diversify your portfolio. But you have to drive that for sure. Next slide. Cool. So yeah, just about that balance again. you can't do all of it. And this is an ugly mess here, you know, like when you're starting to work out, push, pull, where am I going? What do I want to do? Having some opportunity for people to give larger amounts is important for any organisation, whether you're volunteer-led, whether you're generating 20,000 at the moment or 5 million annually through fundraising revenue. If you don't have anything at all available in terms of a major donor, that is a market and an opportunity you will regret missing in about 10 years. So what's happening in the world is this shift, and there's so much sadness, I know, with so many things that are happening at the moment and will continue to happen. The only thing for us as fundraisers is through crisis and through problems in the world, people give more, actually. So giving increases. The shift in what's happened at the moment globally and in New Zealand is that the middle market, so the smaller household donors, that's shrinking. A lot of pressure on that audience, but the major donor market is growing. So they are really kicking in. And they do need to be treated in a certain way, but you can do it in a volunteer-led organisation. It doesn't have to be too corporate feeling. It isn't. It never should. You're a conduit. You're allowing them in to give. So even in a small volunteer-led organisation, and I've worked with a few where they might have one donor that gives them 10 grand a year, you know, and that's huge for them. And that's the base of their major gifts program, right? And they can continue to grow that. I would always try at the moment as well to have some form of bequest opportunity. It doesn't have to be a fully developed program, but at least the right information on your website, including your charities number, where donors who are not talking to you, but they're skimming in the background, can just at least, the least they could do is get the right information to be able to add into their will. So little things like that are quick and easy wins. And don't take too much effort and time. So it doesn't all have to be laborious. Cool, readiness to ask. Oh, this is such a big one. And we're going to just sit here for a little bit. So we have a very cool little guy with some funny eyes, but I wanted to kind of answer a couple of questions that we've been asked here that are not listed on this list. But the main point for all of us here is, hopefully I've been saying it a little bit through the session so far, asking is not the main event. It really isn't. It just is not. If as fundraisers, and if we think about philanthropic fundraising through a relationship lens, we are not begging. We are allowing people that are already interested and want to be part and they want to give. We're allowing them the opportunity to do that. So when we do get to an ask, you know, the audience is ready. They are ready. We actually have to be ready too. And when we're not, we start to do these random asks and we're desperate, right? And that's when that begging kind of feeling kicks in. So to avoid that, things like, and I'm not going to ask for your answers, obviously, on these questions, but do you know your donor audiences? And do you have a database that can actually engage them? So what I mean by that is you don't want to invest in a database that you can't market from if you are going to send newsletters or updates to people. So where you spend your money with your database, just making sure that you get the right product for you. Really good tracking and recording is going to be important. I imagine most of you will already know the value of data. It is absolutely everything for us as fundraisers to know, what do we do next? What's my next movement with this person? What do I think? You know, and it's partly your mind and what you're thinking. It's the art and the science, right? In this beautiful, beautiful profession where we want to be with people where they are. We want to meet them where they are, but with lots of names on lists, how do you do that? You have great databases, you have great automation, you have great segmentation. You know, the detail is really important here. The names of who your donors are spelt correctly. So simple, but when it's not done, they get so offended. You know, so those things matter, and investing the time and spending the time there before you ask is very important. What are your donor-centric key messages? You know, coming back to what we talked about earlier there, you can't just have a whole lot of asks and a whole lot of marketing-led lines that are shiny and sound nice, but don't feel like they mean anything. It will skim over people. It won't cut through and it won't impact them to want to do anything. So donor centricity is key. The main thing in all of this for me is leadership. So boards are absolutely critical to our success as fundraisers. And my own experience working inside a charity and going in and seeing the board so disconnected and disengaged, and what chaos that caused, and then being able to bring them on board and then see the difference. It changed the money, and it took the weight off my shoulders so much as a fundraiser that I just would absolutely encourage those of you that are working with boards or that are on boards. I know we have quite a few board members here as well on the call. So making sure that there is an opportunity and a way to even start that conversation and allow it to flow and occur. So yeah, leadership matters a lot. Donors will look at who your board members are. They'll want to know who they are. They'll want to know, do you have, how solid is your governance? Because especially larger donors don't want to be investing or putting money into a charity or an organization that is going to be gone in 3 or 5 years, or that they can't spend the money where it says they can. So really, really important. The right fundraising materials and human resource, gosh, the human resource bit is what really is devastating for all of us, actually. And what I mean by that is, in the fundraising practice in New Zealand, we have zero, that is absolutely no pathways to learning, none. There is nowhere you can go in New Zealand to learn how to be a fundraiser. So all of us who have these huge hearts and a deep desire to do good and change the world, we come into fundraising from other professions. We kind of land here, and then once we get into it, we just get slammed and we get smashed around, and we don't know what we don't know, and we learn on the job. There's nothing wrong with some learning on the job, but I think it's really healthy. However, there is a point where it becomes a bit dangerous, and when you're dealing with commitments around, especially people leaving gifts and wills, and you're trying to guess or figure it out as you go, the damage can last, it can last, and you may not even realize it. And so it's really important you feel confident and empowered. And I'm not meaning to scare you. I'm really just trying to acknowledge how hard it is for all of us in this space when we don't have the support structures that we need. And a business like mine is set up to we do educate as we go. It's really important. We mentor, do a lot of mentoring with our clients. We work with their boards and them. I say them as in the fundraisers, the people doing the real work, and the boarders too. But we want everyone together. We want to answer the questions. We don't want anything left unsaid. We want to deal with whatever it is to ensure we can all work together. So with limited resource, limited knowledge, no training, our boards are critical. Our teams delivering the services or working in the work, they are important too. Like having everyone help really takes the pressure off. But actually, it's not even just that. It's the right thing to do. That it's an organization-wide activity. It's not one person's job and responsibility. But just check in on those things. Who's doing what here for you? Have you got the right mix of people with the right revenue streams? This is all that development of your fundraising strategy. And then stewardship. In New Zealand, we don't do it very well. It's just because we don't have the resource. So people are out asking and trying to get the money over the line, and they just don't have time to steward donors. If we were able to, and in a perfect world, and if we can unlock and take some of this pressure out by alignment to strategy and getting people involved, stewardship is the most beautiful thing in the world, and that's the thanking of the donor after they have given. Could be a little card, it could be a phone call because you saw their business in the paper or online. Could be that it's their birthday, right? these are the most simple, beautiful things we can do. And if we did it really well, we wouldn't have to ask as much because they would already be ready to give again. So I think understanding that the importance and the value of that in terms of giving might shift things a bit there too. Don't forget policy. So when we work with clients, we've worked with over probably 160 not-for-profit boards and teams in the last 12 and a half years. So a lot of them don't have policies. And I mean fundraising policies. So when we think about that, we think about gift acceptance. Are you going to take gifts from anybody? Some groups it'll be around gaming, funders or gambling. Some it will be very different to that, depending on what your organization is doing. So really making sure you understand gift acceptance, stewardship. What are we doing with people after they give? What are we saying we're doing internally, and owning that so that everyone knows. There's corporate partnerships. That's a really important policy as well. And then database. So those are the four main ones. And then we have probably more of a procedure, which is gift processing. So understanding that flow of what happens when the money comes in, is really important that that's recorded as well. So yeah, hopefully that helps you a bit with the readiness. Corporate partnerships, I'm only going to touch on this briefly because it's a bit of a mess for people working on both sides of the fence, actually, in some cases. So corporate partnerships or sponsorships are not actually a fundraising. It's not fundraising. It is within the fundraising portfolio, very much so, and especially in New Zealand. But the reason that it's not fundraising specific is that it actually attracts GST, right? So a partnership is generally a marketing spend, and the business or the partner that you have will be wanting to leverage their investment to get more. And so they'll generally be wanting to engage with the people that you talk to, your people in your database that you've got super clean and tidy and you know exactly who they are. So they want to sell more things generally to your people or get more awareness or whatever their marketing plan is. And you need to understand that before you engage. But people often think corporate partnership is sponsorship, right? So sponsorship in the left, so that's probably more sponsorship here on the left. There might be a partner's name in really big words on this lovely man's top. This is an AI generated person, by the way. This isn't anyone we know. And it's sponsorship is money in and out. So sponsorship is when a business or a corporate wants to sponsor an event or a campaign. And so for the period of that either event or campaign's life, that sponsor owns that, in terms of the marketing and the communication around that. And that's their responsibility to drive and direct. But it's not huge money necessarily, depending on the event and or campaign, obviously. But the bigger money is with the partnerships, really. And the partnerships is really important to understand that it isn't as visible necessarily over a short period of time, but it should be brought to life over a long period of time. And the values alignment is critical for successful partnerships. So a partnership with a corporate would be more, say, 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, 125, 250 a year. And that's often plus just, but you don't have to worry about that. That's at their end. And for that, you will include or may include sponsorship of a campaign or an event. You could totally they could own something. And so then they've got this loud, bangy impact that kind of kicks off for the duration of that campaign or event. Cause-related marketing can be included, and cause-related marketing is like Tip Top Bread and Kids Can. So you see a logo on a product that is consumable product that's sold high volumes. And so a percentage of the sale of that product will go back to that charity. But don't underestimate the the goodwill that the corporate knows they are getting from using your logo and your brand. So understanding the value of your charity brand, your not-for-profit brand, is critical yourselves. And I would not enter this world if I was a charity unless I really knew the value, our value as a charity, because it gets a bit like you get pushed and pulled around here quite a lot. Payroll giving you can include, you could just get donations from the business as well. They might give that to you as part of the partnership. Volunteering for their people, really important. Staff engagement. There might be some in-kind or pro bono support and staff fundraising on your behalf as well. So lots of cool things you can build into a partnership, but just good to understand the difference. And this wouldn't be the first revenue stream I would target if I was looking to diversify. Just putting it out there as well. Yep. So fundraising toolkit for us, really what this is the things you need. What do you need to get this to go? So we've talked about the strategy. Obviously, this is that strategy is overarching. In terms of resources and elements you don't want to miss, website and social media, so critical. People look at you in a number of ways. They do research themselves, donors in the background. As I said, they want to know the board if they're high value. They'll look at how you present yourself to the world, which is obviously through web and social media. Human resource, how many people, who do you have? Just keep kind of checking through that and thinking about that. Fundraising policies, what have you got and what don't you have? And there's heaps of information out there in the web around that as well. So plenty of information there, but obviously you want New Zealand information. So you can always reach out to us if you want. I think we have some, I shouldn't say that, my team will be so upset. We could probably send you a little bit of information around policies actually after this call. If anyone's interested, just let us know. And the task force, this is something that you utilize a task force, which is just a committee. But it doesn't matter what name you call it. We've got all different kinds of names clients use, but it's essentially a group of volunteers who are helping ask people to support you. But they don't do it just randomly, and they're not volunteers like people that are going to help with the painting of the building or the gardening. These are more volunteers who have means themselves, potentially have given significantly, and have the time and the influence to be able to ask others that are their peers to give. So generally high value donors. But this is how you really activate that revenue stream, is you share it with peers to share with their peers. But you have to have all the material and the messaging and the control and the database and the flow and the policies, everything. You have to have that all ready before you go anywhere near a task force, because you can imagine how wrong that can go, right? Key messaging, we've talked about that. The case for support is really, what is your cause proposition? And this is where all that beautiful language that will come down from the vision right through your strategic plan into the fundraising strategy, fundraising priorities, donor-centric messaging, all of that is in here. And it's a beautiful way of, really connecting with people more emotively, the case for support. It's used in a number of ways for different audiences. And again, there's plenty of information around about that as well. Communications plan, just for those of you who are super comms people, because often in fundraising, comms and fundraising are so deeply interconnected. It's really such an important partnership within any charity, not-for-profit. The way that we as fundraisers, when we are developing a strategy, like to use comms, a comms plan, is that we want the comms plan to help us activate the fundraising strategy. So when we look at it and we're low resource and we don't have a whole lot of money and time, we go, I don't want a big document and lots of words because you may not use them. What I want is, I want the strategy that I've got here. I want the activity that comms can highlight, talk about, initiate. I want it to blow up my fundraising strategy. So we just do a timeline, like we do a comms plan that is like we overlay it year on year over that fundraising strategy. So in year one, we're like, great, we need this to occur here, here, and here, and here. And so it won't be huge amounts of activity necessarily, but it'll be quite measured and very directed at driving people to want to give or get closer to wanting to give. And then database prospect list. So databases, gosh, it's a big old space, the database one. Some of them are really expensive and most groups will never use everything in them. So there's no point getting a big database. Don't get sold something you don't need. There's plenty of smaller options, but again, they all come with pros and cons. So we do have a one pager on databases as well. If anyone would like to let us know about that, the team can flick that out. So yeah, policies and database, I do believe we can help send some info out afterwards, but really important you get the right database for your organization, and it won't be the same as somebody else down the road, potentially. So those are kind of the tools. And then I'm just thinking the questions, I may not have answered them all before. So we talked about small organizations, ROI, trying to make that work. I've covered that. We've talked about the board and getting them involved. I might just, on that, I might just quickly say what I found worked for me, and everyone's different. So I don't want to say do this because that's not fair. I found that I quite like a challenge, right? And I'm a little bit competitive, as I imagine most of you are too. So I picked the hardest board member. He was an accountant. He didn't like fundraising. He was the chair as well. And he was very not that interested, didn't get it. And I was like, I want to get him over the line in my mind. And so I just invited him to come to a catch up, all made it super casual, catch up with a donor. And he had no idea about the amount of planning and prep that had gone in the background. And I didn't bother him with it. I didn't talk to him about it. I just let him come and experience it. It wasn't an ask, so there was no pressure. And he left and he had a really nice time. And that was all. And then I didn't do anything to him after that. I want him to come to me. So what we want to do with fundraising is we want to know our worth as fundraisers, and we want to spread little breadcrumbs to let these board members have an experience that's positive, that's not pressured. And we're not saying you have to do this. We're letting them experience the beauty, the gentle joy of giving, right? So let them be part of it. And then when they are ready to listen, you can start to tell them, oh, you know that meeting we had? I spent 6 hours doing a whole lot of research. Let me show you what it looked like. And you show them your background document, your prospecting tools, whatever you're using to understand the donor and what you're going to be talking to them about when you get into that meeting. It will blow their mind. And then they will ask more questions. And so let them come in, but it does take a bit of time. But if you can just get one of them on board, they will then bring the others with them generally. So yeah, that's the board. And then digital age. So getting people to do something is difficult. I get that. We have a market which is cluttered in terms of what's out there, and the asking, way too much asking all the time. It's so sad in New Zealand particularly, but it's everywhere, right? So you want to interrupt the market or you need to interrupt people to get them to pay attention. So I don't think anyone can do that without a good strategy, because it needs to be real. It needs to be meaningful, genuine. It can't be made up. So with thinking about digital, I would just be mindful of, is it actually the right thing to do? Or am I doing it because I think I should do it? Am I ticking a box? Or does it make sense? Really bringing it back into how often, what, why, like really qualifying what it is you're saying. But people will take action if they are treated properly and they are getting the information from you they want, not what you think they want. And that's why we have to understand our audiences as well. So we open up for some questions, I reckon. If that's okay. Which, let me see this chat. So, gosh, there's lots of bits in here. So Anna from For Purpose, keen to learn more about communicating mission and values in a way that connects with supporters. Just I hope we've covered that. I'm not sure if we did, but that was at 12:09 you sent that, so hopefully. So it's great to have you guys all add your names and where you're from. I do know some of you, and it's really nice to have a couple of clients here. Hello, Amy. That's really cool. And Graham. It's just some really good people. And St. Kevin's, I think, was going to be here too, but that may not have may not have happened. So let me find some questions here. Um, oh, I have one
Can I
question. Oh, yes. Yes,
oh,
go.
ask a question? Can you give an example of what a donor-centered message might look like,
Mm-hmm.
as differentiated from some of your other messaging?
Mm-hmm. So a general message, or we'd probably call it more marketing developed messaging because sometimes it is a bit like that. Would be a little bit more like we strive to achieve this with the blah blah we have, and this is why, and we believe it's excellent, right? And then the message that is more donor centric might be, you know, over 80 years we have been able to achieve blah, blah, blah. It is only because of the incredible support we have had from people like yourself that that has happened. Um, in the future, we are wanting to achieve blah, blah, blah. And, like the next message would then start to talk about what you want them to do next, basically. So you're bringing people in. It's more emotive. It's less a brochure of look at me, this is who I am. It's more how the people that are helping you, the impact of what they're doing to support and help you. And it's about them. So people don't give to you because you have needs. Nobody cares that you don't have enough staff and that it's hard and that you can't get the money and it's all difficult and we didn't hit our target. That's not interesting to anybody. We have to stop talking like that. They give because you meet needs. You meet needs. Let them know the needs you're meeting as frequently and often as you possibly can. I feel like that would be even a great message, if we all just did that a little bit more. It would make such a difference. Mm.
That's awesome. Thank you. Do donors respond more the more specific you are? Like,
Great.
with your help, we will be able to do X, or does it depend?
No, very good question. And this is so many things I would love to have gotten into so much more detail on. It's very hard in an hour. But so donors that are giving smaller amounts, so they are slightly more transactional, right? But nothing should be transactional in fundraising, really. Smaller donors don't have to be either. But to get them to give, if the language in the thing is too big, it's way too scary. So we use much more tangible language around in order to achieve our vision of blah, 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 we have the focus on support or whatever your priority language thing is, right? And then for them, you bring it back down into, it might be an appeal that's sent out once a year, right? Or an ask that's kind of going out about a thing. So in order to achieve our support, the support here, we need lots of things, but one of them is we need a van, actually. I think of you, Amy, when I say that. We need a van to be able to get our people from here to here. And I think it's going to cost us about 20 grand, something like that. Or that might be a bit high, but they could contribute to like a kitchen utensil. Don't go that low. That's way too low. But you see what I mean? Like you make it a thing for the people that you know are smaller givers. But for the bigger donors, we want to keep it as big as possible. So for them, I don't go much further down than the priorities for the first 6 months. I just keep going back to the messaging there to make sure it really makes sense. Because what I'm trying to get them to understand is we have 10 million we need to raise a year. 6 of it is required in this area, priority, right? This priority area. We know we can generate 3 through these sources, which leaves us with this $3 million opportunity. It's not an opportunity. I think that's not quite the right word, but you know what I mean? We don't want to call it a gap or a deficit, okay? Because the deficit language gets used all the time in the wrong way with donors, and it scares the heck out of them. So what we would say then to the larger donor is it's actually not what we say, it's we're listening and looking at their body language. When we talk about that space and that 3 million, we want to watch what they do when we talk about big numbers. Do they panic and go like that? And if they do, that person can't give you the money that you're talking about, right? So remember that and record it. And so then you start to drop things down a little bit and start to make it a bit more tailored for their ears. and their body language to, oh, yeah, and they start moving forward, good sign. So that engagement is going to be really important. And not assuming because you wouldn't give that much money or you wouldn't give to the thing, never assume that they wouldn't, because you don't know. And it happens all the time. We always do this. And if it's not us, it's our board or somebody we know. You can't do it's the loudest voice in the room. But be very confident, all of you, you can shut that down nicely. But nobody knows the donor except the donor. Ask them, let them in, let them give. Cool. I can see, hello, Charlene from St. Kitts. That's great. Joe told me you were going to come along. So awesome. We've got a question here from Laura around how do you go about ensuring that corporate partnerships align with your organization's values? So an example she's given is for an environmental charity, making sure that corporate partners are environmentally responsible. We have done so much work in that environment conservation space in the last year and a half with a number of incredible charities, larger charities here. We have spent a huge amount of time in the corporate partner space with them because that sector is becoming much more attractive to donors and obviously corporates. And so everyone's like, oh, great, they're now keen and ready to give. We better do something about that. And so we try and provide them a solution and an opportunity, right? But sometimes they're not the right partner. So let's not. No. No's okay. And this is where your gift acceptance is going to be critical as well. So at governance level and in terms of policy, there will, especially for environmental and conservation groups, this matters so much that you have a clear remit around who you do and do not want to have money from. Because in this space, it can get really mucky. And that might be the first filter. And then as you start to drop down and get to the next conversation with them, the alignment of value is you have to ask them. All of this is about what are your values? How do you live them? Not just listen to them say, these are our corporate values, integrity, blah, 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 blah. The words don't matter. Do they mean anything or not? So you're actually analyzing. You're not trying to get them to give to you. This is much more of a leverageable partnership, right? You are checking them out going, I don't know that we want you. You're like, So I'm always way less is more with corporates. Sit right back. Like really, you don't want to be desperate ever here. So yeah, really important that the alignment of the values is genuine and you have to do the research to understand that there's no quick, fast way to do it, unfortunately. And particularly in that space, so much happens there. And Sarah from Jane Goodall, nice to have you here. That's really cool. I think Jez was going to pop along as well. So you wanted me to develop the point a little more in terms of how a donor's gift will meet needs. So that's what they all meet needs in terms of what they do for the organization. And I'm trying to figure out how to answer that question a little bit. Yeah, it's the only way I see it is any gift would have to meet a need. It can't just be a gift for the sake of it, right? So we have to communicate what need it meets and the impact. And I know, Tim, as well, we will come back to you and answer your question or email around impact. It's a massive old beast, that one, and we can help with that, but it can't happen in this format necessarily. But yeah, all of the gifts that you get from any donor have to meet a need. Our job is to understand the needs ourselves first, which is what we do through that strategic process. And then when we're asking the donor, we are very clear what the money's going to do, right? And so they will know what need it meets. But the need doesn't have to be short term. And this is, I think, where our fundraising brains have to shift a little bit. We can have a donor, and I have had donors that will give $1 million over 3 years to help achieve this huge part of your strategic plan, right? It's not an in and out thing. And you might not get there and succeed, and that's okay, right? It's okay because you're going to be reporting back to them in a way that suited them because you will have asked them, what reporting do you want? How often should we catch up? Do you want it on WhatsApp? Some major donors love WhatsApp. They never want to meet you. Some want text, some want WhatsApp, some want face-to-face meetings, all different combinations. But you've got to ask them. Don't assume. So what kind of comms are we doing? And then, making sure you let them know and keep them updated is actually the key. Sorry, another question. I don't know how much time I've got left. Sorry, guys. Oh,
We're
we're
at
at
about time.
Mhm.
Are
We
you?
might pick that. We can pick that other question up
Yeah.
outside of this session.
That would be great. I'll send through all the questions to you. And thank you so much. There was so much in there. I have been writing things down. I'm sure everyone on this call found so much value in this. And I hear you might be doing some more in future. So if people want to connect, I have your website and I have you on LinkedIn. We didn't talk about this beforehand. Is there any other ways that you'd like people to connect with you or
Just
reach out if they have any questions?
whatever works for them. You know, we've got many channels people can get through to us. We've got Instagram, we've got LinkedIn, we've got Facebook, we've got email. You can come through the website. So just whatever suits you. Probably not a phone call is probably the only thing I'd say. You know, but if it's the right thing, do it. You know, but just be mindful. But yeah, you know, any way that really works for you guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Sarah. Next month, we have Measuring with Purpose, Social Impact Measurement Beyond Reporting, which is such a cool lead on from this. If you want to come along, it's with our friend Annabelle Fernandez on the 27th of June. Just check out our website if you would like to see that. And I'm going to close out with a karakia and let everyone get on with their Fridays. Happy weekend, everyone. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te atawhai o tō tātou āriki a ihu karaiti me te aroha o te atua me te whiwhinga tahihanga ki te wairua tapu. Ake, ake, ake. Āmene.
Amen.
Thanks, everyone.
Kia ora. Thank you.
Kia ora, ka kite.